Welcome to Storycomic Presents, where we interview amazing storytellers and artists. This is episode 446. I'm your host, Barney Smith of Storycomic.com, and we're excited to have with us the internationally acclaimed musician and best-selling children's book author, Angela Ayers. Angela,
Hello, Barney.
how are you doing?
I'm good. Good. Lovely to be here from the other side of the world.
That's right. So you're talking to us from the future right now. You're talking to us from Tuesday. It's Tuesday morning where you are right now.
Yes, it is. It is.
All
Yeah.
right. Yes. And because I'm still here on Monday evening, so everything's still okay in the future, then I take it.
It's, very, very tricky trying to navigate the time zone between you and me. I'm sitting here going, oh, now have I got the right day? Now.
I know exactly.
Oh, but that's sort of what happens as you get a little older as well.
Yeah. I know.
I'm
I know.
allowed. I'm told I'm allowed. I'm allowed to get
Yeah.
confused.
Yes, it's right. Exactly. It's like as you're getting like I'm 48 right now, and so it is. It's true. When you sometimes I'll wake up in the morning just not sure what day it is. So it's just you
Oh,
can
no,
just gotta
you're
accept
young.
that.
You're
Yeah.
young.
You I like it when somebody says that 48 is young. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Well, when you're my age, 40, yeah, but 40 is very young. You're only just really beginning your career. Well, I mean, that's what happens too, as I found that, especially now, performers are sort of coming in. If they're not discovered really early on, it's more like that slow burn through to about late 30s, early 40s when they really make their mark. Yeah.
Right. You're here to talk a little bit about your children's book, and that's how we kind of got connected. But you've had a giant career in the arts as well before writing books.
Well, I come from a little place called Palmerston North in New Zealand, and that's an hour's north driving from Wellington. Okay, so Wellington's the capital and at the bottom of the North Island. So we're inland. And I just sort of started with amateur operatic society. My parents weren't performers, but my father was always the doorman where the alcohol was held, and my mother was an usher. So my brother and sister and I were all performers. So I started with that, but I also started dancing at a very young age and doing song and dances and all that competition work. And that's really all I ever did. I just lived it, ate it, and breathed it, and every second of the day. If you had a birthday party and you were lucky enough to be invited to my party, I organised the concert and I always opened the concert and I always closed it. So sometimes I think when I do eventually write my book totally about myself, I'd like to go back and talk to a whole lot of school friends and say, I hope I wasn't too cocky or too, pretentious back then, because I've got no idea what it was like. But I entered a glorified talent quest, which was sort of you had to move to Auckland to sing with a band, and then you were going to be picked up by a manager. Well, I did that and won the competition, and within a few months, I was 19, so I was on Happenin', which was the big television show. There was only one channel in New Zealand, so I was on that, and that was your big hit night. That had run for many years, but I actually did the last year of it, and you did a 6-week run. Well, when I started the 6-week run, the producer said, we'll sign her for 9 months. So I was sort of, within a couple of months, a household name in New Zealand. But my big dream was to always star in a musical on the West End or Broadway. So I did television for 4 years, left there at, I think, 23, and had a couple of hit songs, pop songs, and stopped on my way to London in Sydney and stumbled in on the auditions of the original A Chorus Line. So my drama teacher, who I was seeing at the time, said, oh, did you know about Chorus Line? And I went, no, what was that? And she said, well, it's won all the Tony Awards and, they're auditioning. And they'd been auditioning for 6 weeks. So I got an audition on that day, and Bayok Lee was there, and I walked in with no dancing clothes because I am a dancer, but I'm a Highland dancer. I've done all my exams in Highland, and I've done all my tap exams, but I'd never done ballet or jazz. So I walked in there and had bare feet and, pair of cut-off jeans and tried to do the jazz and ballet auditions, which I wasn't very good at doing. But the tap I was fine. And then as I was leaving Bayuk, Lee said, "Have you got a song?" And I went, "No, I didn't actually. I'd never done an audition in my life." So I said to the keyboard player, "Can you give me a B flat?" And I burst into a one, a two, a 1, 2, 3, 4, baby face. And I got the scholarship to study jazz ballet in LA for 10 weeks prior to the Australian production. So that was me hitting the stage in Australia. And then after that, I was very fortunate in the 80s to star in lots of musicals. I did Guys and Dolls with Anthony Warlow, who's currently here with Annie, Jerry's Girls, just everything, as well as cabaret shows, as well as doing cruises and lots of commercials. So then COVID hit, and I was like everybody, like this creative artist with nowhere to go, and
Right.
what do I do? So the universe sprung into action, and at about 3 a.m, all these poems sort of started coming through. I mean, I had co-written, the B-sides of singles that I'd had all those years ago, for those that know what singles were, 45s, but never really considered, I don't know how the children's books arrived, but out of those poems, I wrote about 48 poems, and they'd come in at 3 a.m. I put them in my phone, and when I got up, I'd read them and go, "Oh, these are all right." Some of them rhyme. So by the end of several weeks, I had 48 poems, and 6 of them were like children's ones. So I decided to turn them into children's books. So I got with a musical friend of mine who came from Whanganui, which is 30 minutes from my hometown, Palmerston North, and he lives in Sydney, around the corner from me. He was in his 80s. And I said, "I've got these poems, and, should we do some songs?" Because that's originally what I was going to do, was a children's album. So we put some stuff down and did the songs, and then I went, well, I might as well, what's stopping me putting some children's books together? So I did. I put the children's books out. So I've got 3. So that it was 2 Little Kiwi Birds, and they're based on my husband and I, because we both come from Palmerston North, New Zealand. And it's about 2 little Kiwi birds flying. The first one was 2 little Kiwi birds. They're about Les and Beryl, and that happens to be, my husband's called Leslie Wayne and I'm Angela Beryl. So I've called them Les and Beryl. 2 little Kiwi birds that leave their home country of New Zealand and come to Australia, and where they visit. It's a learning book for kids. They talk about the cities and states and that of Australia. So that's how that all came about, and I've just followed that theme through.
Okay. And so what made you decide to choose obviously everybody, I wouldn't say obviously, but for our listeners and viewers to be reminded, is like the kiwi bird is the national bird of New Zealand?
Yes, and
Okay.
it doesn't fly.
Right.
It doesn't fly.
And was that the reason why you chose the kiwi birds as the protagonist, because it's also representative of your home country?
Yes. It just says, the Australian one says, we were, so with writing the poems and then turning them into songs, it honestly, I didn't really have to think very much about it. I didn't do a lot of work on it at all. It just came out of the universe, and 2 little Kiwi birds that left New Zealand and travelled to Australia and then settles in Australia. But it ended up by being far more involved with it than I actually anticipated. Like, if I'd actually sat down and done a storyboard of the way that you should do a book, like I'd never done anything like this before in my life. So, it was like I was on this roll, and
Right.
I did the first one, and then I was going back to New Zealand to promote the books, and someone said, "Well, I think you need to do a book on New Zealand." And I went, Oh, okay. Well, I do have poems about, two little Kiwi birds. So I did the same for New Zealand. And as you sing along to the book and you go through the pictures, it tells you the cities of New Zealand as well.
Mm,
Um, so that's sort of how they all came about. And then, of course, I went, well, these actually could be learning books for children, because I was not a good scholar at school, and I learned all my times tables, all of the universe, the planet, and all of that, all in song,
mm,
because at age 11, they had this magical cave in Palmerston North at Christmas time. And there was a writer by the name of Roy Ascot Terry who had written all of these songs and the times table. So I learned all my times table that way. So I figured, for those that are having issues with reading, if they can sing them, sing along to them, and they're fun, they'll learn the places of Australia and they will learn the places of New Zealand. So that's sort of been my idea with the books.
okay. Now, so how did you balance then, like the cultural storytelling aspect with like educational content?
Well, because of where I'd placed where the two little Kiwi birds first of all went to Tasmania, so there was just a picture of Tasmania, and then they flew up to Perth, so you would learn the distance between. They flew down to Tasmania, then went up to Perth, Melbourne, and Adelaide just to see the surf. And then they travel up to Brisbane, the Gold Coast, and all of that. So it's sort of following their journey. So
Mm,
to be quite honest, I didn't really consider geographically or what I was going to put into them. It's just, I guess I went with what the universe created in
mm,
my head for the poems. Yeah. And
okay.
then, of course, the third book was about the colours of the rainbow. So this one, you learn the colours of the rainbow. So I've turned the three. There's actually 6 songs, children's songs, with 6 of those different poems. And I've turned that into a children's musical now too, which I'm slowly working on. But
Oh, wow.
that's on the back bench. So I've written it all. Now I just have to sort of, you know, go further
Right.
down that road. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And so what kind of feedback have you gotten from educators about your books?
oh well, they've loved them. But I mean,
Okay.
it's the same old story of getting everything out when you're a self-published um, author.
Right.
It's constant, constantly plugging away. Yes.
Right. Well, hey there. If you're enjoying our podcast, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep this show going. We love hearing from you, so any feedback is welcome. And thank you for being a part of our podcast family and for all your support. It truly means a lot to us. What's is interesting because your books, most children's book authors deal with, and they write it and then they have to deal with an illustrator, but you also dealing with like a music studio in a way. So how did you be able to balance working with like an illustrating team and also a music studio to put your books together?
Well, I think it made it easier because Robin, my musical friend who played the keyboards, he did all the instruments, and he's got a home studio. So we just basically did it, I think he in the bedroom he had a microphone that he could set up that, because this is during COVID, so you weren't sort of out and about very much. So it was
Right.
very lucky that he was just around the corner, and I just gave him the idea. And then because I'd created the song, I sang everything into my phone, and then he put the music around it. So it was much easier for me. Then I turned around to my son who's in business and I said, okay, I've got to find an illustrator for my books. What do you suggest? And he actually suggested Fiverr, which I'd never heard of before.
Mhm.
And look, honestly, I just punched in Fiverr on the computer. I was so green, absolutely unbelievably green, that I didn't really go to anybody for any advice. And
Mm.
maybe if I maybe if I'd done that, like, you know how you have your stage 1, your stage 2. I didn't have any of that. I would maybe start at stage 6 and then I'd do stage 5 with the book. But the fact that I had the song already done and recorded, and then when I went into Fiverr to look for someone to do my books, to illustrate them, I was able to give him the ideas and all the places of each book. So in each book, there's, like, with Australia, of course, there's the Sydney Harbour Bridge, or there's Taronga Park Zoo, or so I was able to send him some things of the things that what they look like, and he was able to draw it and put it together. And when he came back with it, I was just blown away. So then, of course, I've just loaded it up on on Amazon, which is what we're all doing. And it came together really easily. So I decided to stick with him for all 3 books, which is what I've done. And I've heard some terrible nightmare stories about people that have used Fiverr and whatever. But honestly, it was just, everything was like a jigsaw puzzle that came together so well. So I wasn't hit with any, any barriers. I just went and did it. But if I had the chance to do it again, would I change a few things? I don't know whether I'd put a QR code in the book, because you have to, the ongoing costs to keep all of those things up. So each book, I think, proved to be a little bit better from the one before. I think the first book we had 2 characters in, second book you had 2, and then the third book is actually 8 or 9 pages of a colouring book in the back. That's the rainbow.
Okay.
Yeah, that one's my favourite. That so far is my favourite.
What else have you learned from your first book as compared to that you were able to implement in your third book?
Maybe I could have put some more colouring pages in the back of them. First of all, I think maybe because I didn't really have anybody to say, what age group do you think I should put these to? Because I had grandchildren, I wrote them with that in mind as well. So I sort of put the age from 3+, but then I'm not sure if that is the correct age. When I went back to New Zealand, the books were really well received. So I think you're sort of on a roll when you, I don't know. As I said, I didn't really plan a lot of it. QR code in there. I maybe put that in there because it was COVID, and maybe it seemed like the right thing to do, because I thought the QR code would be good to get parents to drive you to, whether it was iTunes or Apple, wherever the song was. But I don't know whether or not that's such a good idea, because I don't know whether parents that have got screaming children in a supermarket are going to want to pick up the book and go, oh, there's a QR code. You know what I mean? So maybe I made it a little bit too tricky for myself. I don't know. I haven't really asked anybody. And I don't know. I mean, there are, it's amazing when you start putting something out like this, the amount of scammers that are out there that offer you a deal, and you first of all go, oh my goodness, I didn't know I was going to get published, and I'm going to get, and of course that was what I wasn't aware of. So that was really interesting, because you get really excited that you've got this offer, and then you realize that you need to pay somebody to put it together. And I'm going, well, I've done all of that. I already had my webpage, and I already had my profile, and the books were out. But I didn't realize, because I've paid for everything myself, I didn't realize that I could have just gone with a blank page. Maybe that's what I learned, that I could have just gone with one blank page and tried to get a deal, which, instead of, paying for everything up front myself. I think, I don't know, but it's lovely to know that I've got it in concrete form. I can look at it. I did those.
Yes, that's right. Now, do you plan to extend the series to new regions or have new themes?
That's the next story. Do I stay with this theme along the way, or do I create something else? I'm not sure. I think with the 2 little Kiwi birds, with the musical, I've started off with the New Zealand book, then to the Australian book, and then the two little Kiwi birds will have issues having children, and then in the Rainbow book, it can be, classed as diverse. I sort of tried to make that a bit more diversified, to saying, well, there's a baby kangaroo that's left at the zoo, and so Les has this baby kangaroo left at the zoo, and so he brings it home to Beryl to bring up as their own. So they're Kiwi birds with a kangaroo, and then she falls pregnant with. So there's baby kangaroo, which is baby Joey, which is actually named after my granddaughter, who's 4.5, and then she has a baby, so it's just baby Kiwi. So then it's baby kangaroo and Kiwi playing in their backyard, and then they start exploring the colours of the world. So, yeah, I don't know because the 6 songs that go into the musical are all basically based on those two little Kiwis. I don't know. That's a good question.
Mm. And so how has creating these books kind of influenced your identity as an entertainer now then?
Oh, well, it's another thread to my bow, I guess, I don't know. Sometimes do we ever plan anything that
Right.
comes together well? It's like sometimes when it's something out of the blue. Look, most people now know me as a children's book author, besides being a performer, and it really is no different. I think the background of me being a performer and an artist, and being, because we are basically like a jar of Vegemite. You either like it or you don't. So that's the way us performers, artists, and you'll either like the book or you won't, or it'll. So has it? I don't know. It's just given me something else to lean my hat on, I suppose, because I wasn't ready to go into retirement, and I've kind of gone into a tad of retirement in this last year, and I don't know. I've got to have always a project to work on, because I like to paint, and I'm still waiting for the creative side to sort of bounce back a bit creatively. So I don't really know where I'm heading, but it's nice to know that I've got the books out there, and that if anybody wants to learn about Australia or New Zealand or sing along to the colours of the rainbow, they're there, especially for the
Right.
kids. I just think the best thing for kids to learn is to learn songs and help them reading.
Right. Well, and I gotta say, Angela, the very fact that you have the QR code in your books actually does make the book more interactive, and it does give your book, much more longevity than your average children's book out there, because people can then, click on the QR code and then listen to the song, and
Yeah.
it gives your books, a lot more depth than your average children's book.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I look at some of the comments that are put up on some of the sites, like on Facebook sites, and I've joined many more groups to sort of learn. So I've probably been reading a lot more than I have, because I've never really been a great reader. As I said, I've always learnt everything basically by song, and I would like to eventually do. Well, I always wanted to do these the times table, which the New Zealander had written. I do that, have that in the back of my mind. Whether or not I will do it, I don't know. I've got a couple of other songs. One about the bees are buzzing in the lilac tree, and how we need to be careful to look after the bees. And there's one, Pelican Pete. So I've got a painting of Pelican Pete, and then I've got the song of Pelican Pete. And in Pelican Pete, will it have the two little Kiwi birds? Well, maybe it'll have baby Joey and baby Kiwi at the pond where Pelican Pete comes in to feed. I don't know. Look, it's been fun, and it's certainly given me something else to think about. I always have to have a project. I'm not good at sitting back. I don't sit and watch television very much, and I'd rather write or, paint or, be creative in some way.
And so what kind of advice would you give authors that are thinking about getting starting their own children's book? Yeah.
Just do it, but don't be too precious about it. I think it's because it's still our product, and it's still like, and it is hard to take, criticism on something, but just be careful who you go to be advised on, and don't think that the first person that is going to contact you is going to actually offer you a big deal, Um, and the more that I didn't realize it was going to be as hard as a self-published author of children's book as it actually has been. But I haven't been daunted by it. I've just gone, well, it's out there, and I'll keep promoting it and keep doing what I'm doing. But if it's your passion, who has any right to say that it's not good? If it's passionate to you, then I think you've got to do it. And I believe anybody with any talent, like, we are very fortunate that we've been able to make a living in an industry which is really tough. We know that. But you need the kids that they're bringing out of with all these courses, they've got to be shown that you've got to be resilient as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So if people want to learn more about you and your work, Angela, is angelaayers.com, is that the best place they could go to?
Yes. Well, when I went to my web designer and I told him what I had, all of the pictures underneath the where he's actually got my pages are actually paintings that I've painted. So he said, "Oh, well, we're going to use that as well." And I went, "Oh, okay, gee, that'll be great." So I'm really proud of my my web page, and he suggested, let's just put a teaser there, and then you can listen to that. You can learn a little bit more about me, and if you want to download the song, well, then you just so I'm really happy. Yes, I do a Linda Ronstadt show. To me, she was the best. Yeah. So I've done that for the last 11 years on top of everything else.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, perfect. So Angela, you'll have to come back on when you get your next book out then, I guess.
Oh, I would love to. Thank you so much. This is really so close to my heart, and thank you so much. You're doing a fantastic job, and it's very important to every person like myself.
Okay. Thank you so much. No, I got, that was a little turquoise. Is that how's that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. All right. That's your color now. Okay.
Okay, that's it.
All right. I'm going to get the intro and we'll jump right into it. All right. Here we go. All right.